The 512K Apple Macintosh, otherwise known as the Fat Mac, is the second Apple Macintosh computer sold, with the Macintosh 128K being the first. Its beige case consisted of a 9-inch CRT monitor and came with a keyboard and mouse. A handle built into the top of the case made it easy for the computer to be lifted and carried. It had an initial selling price of $2,495, which is equivalent to almost $6,000 in 2020. Sales of the Macintosh were strong from its initial release on January 24, 1984, and reached 70,000 units on May 3, 1984. Upon the release of its successor, the Macintosh 512K, it was rebranded as the Macintosh 128K. The heart of the computer was a Motorola 68000 microprocessor running at 7.8336 megahertz, connected to 128 kilobyte of RAM by the processor and the display controller. The built-in display was a 1-bit black and white 9-inch CRT with a fixed resolution of 512 by 342 pixels, establishing the desktop publishing standard of 72 ppi. Expansion and networking were achieved using two non-standard RS-422 DB9 serial ports, one for a printer and one for the modem. An external floppy disk drive could also be added using a proprietary connector. The original keyboard had no arrow keys, numeric keypad, or function keys. This was an intentional decision by Apple, as these keys were common on older platforms, and it was thought that the addition of these keys would encourage software developers to simply port their existing applications to the Mac, rather than design new ones around the GUI paradigm. As with the Apple Lisa before it, the mouse had a single button. Standard headphones could also be connected to the mono jack. Apple also offered their 300 and 1200-bit modems, originally released for the Apple II line. Initially, the only printer available was the Apple ImageWriter, a dot matrix printer which was designed to produce 144 dots per inch, what you see is what you get output from the Mac's 72 dots per inch screen. Eventually, the LaserWriter and other printers were capable of being connected using AppleTalk, Apple's built-in networking system. The Macintosh contained a single 400 kilobyte, single-sided 3.5-inch floppy drive. The unit did not include a fan, relying instead on convection cooling, which made it quiet while in operation. Steve Jobs insisted that the Macintosh ship without a fan, which persisted until the introduction of the Macintosh SE in 1987. This was allegedly a source of many common, costly component failures in the first 4 Macintosh models. This was enough of a problem to prompt the introduction of a third-party external cooling fan. This fan unit fitted inside the Macintosh's carrying handle slot and produced a forced draft through the computer's existing ventilation holes. The Macintosh shipped with the very first System and Finder application, known as System 1.0, and the applications MacPaint and MacWrite were bundled with the Mac. Other programs available included Mac Project, Mac Terminal, Microsoft Word. Programming languages available at the time included Mac Basic, Mac Pascal, and the Macintosh 68000 development system. The Macintosh also came with a manual and a unique guided tour cassette tape, which worked together with the guided tour diskette as a tutorial for both the Macintosh itself and the bundled applications. Since most new Macintosh users had never used a mouse before, much less manipulated a graphical user interface. By early 1985, much Macintosh software required 512K of memory. Apple sold an official memory upgrade for the Macintosh 128K, which included a motherboard replacement, effectively making it a Macintosh 512K for the price of $995. The Mac 512K originally shipped with Macintosh System 1.1, but was able to run all versions of macOS up to the System 4.1. It was replaced by the Macintosh 512KE and the Macintosh Plus. All support for the Macintosh 512K was discontinued on September 1st, 1998. The stock 512K could also use a 800 kilobyte floppy disk drive, as well as the hard disk 20, the first hard disk manufactured by Apple exclusively for use with the 512K Mac. As with the original Macintosh, the 512K was designed with no slots for upgrade boards and had no hard disk controller. On the side of the Mac also had an interrupt and a reset interface. So now I'm going to demonstrate for you booting the Fat Mac using the 400K floppy running with, this has MacWrite and Mac Paint on it, and then I'm actually going to do it using a drive emulator. So you would stick the disk in, and right away the Mac would start, give you a little happy Mac, say welcome to Macintosh, and now it's reading the disk. And it's loading. And this disk was one of the disks that came with the computer, and it had Write and Paint on it. And this has MacWrite and Mac Paint plus the system folders. And if I look at the Finder, this is a 4.1 Finder for the 512K Mac. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to eject this disk, and after I eject it, I am going to use a drive emulator, which plugs into the back of the Macintosh, which is where the hard drive or an external second floppy disk would be inserted. And this allows me to run disk images that I've already saved to give you a couple of different examples with the Macintosh. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually try to eject this disk here. And many times the eject wouldn't work right because the Mac is getting old. This one's definitely getting older. And sometimes the motor doesn't eject the disk correctly, like in this situation. And that's actually why they created that little hole there so that you could take a paper clip, and with a paper clip you push into the little hole there, and by pushing in you're able to eject the disk if it had a problem once it ejected. So I am going to still click the eject button. Fix this a little bit. And I am going to do a shutdown, which will shut it down. And from the shutdown, I'm now going to go to my floppy emulator. And I am going to select a couple of different ones real quick just to show you some cool things. So let's start off with MacWrite. So I'm going to select MacWrite, and it thinks MacWrite just got inserted in there, and it is running, and it is loading. And I'm going to give you an example of how MacWrite worked, which was one of the first, what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG word processors. So I'm actually going to load the sample memo here, so you can see a memo that's already been loaded, so you can get a quick example of how this was so revolutionary at the time, because here's a memo that has been loaded, and you can see we're using this mouse, and we can scroll down and see the information that was typed here. And here's just a simple little memo that is typed here. And you should notice right away, one of the greatest things about using a mouse is we have all the different features of cut, copy, and paste, which came out of that. But one of the nicest things is we can actually change the font or the sizes. So we could say, which is very, everyone knows today, so we can make that Chicago, and we can make this, let's make this, highlight it again, and let's make it 24 point. And now it is Chicago 24 point. And the beautiful part of this is this created the whole concept of what you see is what you get. That just changed the spacing, so let's make everything centered. So now everything is centered. So with the image writer, you were able to print this and print exactly what you saw on the screen, you were able to print, which is very cool. The other very thing that's really amazing is that it also introduced the ability of cutting in little clip art or pictures. So if I go here to our scrapbook, this is a place where you could insert text or images or different things. So I'm going to click on this picture here, and I'm going to go here and do copy. So I'm copying the little apple, and then I could insert that right there by just hitting paste. And now a picture is inside the word processing as well. So if you compare and contrast this to some of the other examples that I've shown you with ASCII-based, text-based systems, you can see how drastically this is improved. And what's also amazing at the time is you can click on it and actually expand the picture and make it, it does become more pixelated when you expand, but you can make the picture smaller or bigger to put in whatever you want to. So this really started the whole evolution of what's known as desktop publishing. People were able to do things now on this computer that could never be done before, which really revolutionized how people were able to do things with these machines, which are really tremendous in comparison to what you were able to do before. So I'm going to stop this real quick. I'm not going to save this. I'm going to stop it. And then I am going to quit, and I'm going to do a quick reboot, and I'm going to show you two more very cool programs on the Mac. So I'm going to do a shutdown, which will restart the machine. And I am going to go to our Smooth Talker. So one of the things that the 68000 was able to do was really do advanced sounds. And what I'm going to load here is an example, and I can, here's just a speak to me using Smooth Talker. Smooth Talker was one of the first voice synthesis programs. And this is an example of Smooth Talker, and it has a small little program here, and you're able to have it read to you something. So I'm going to make sure on the control panel that the volume is set all the way up. So here we go. So the volume is set as high as it can. And this is actually, I think, running the early 1.1. So here we go. So I'm going to go to speech, and I'm going to do speak to text. And it takes it a second.
Congratulations. You have just given your Macintosh the freedom of speech with Smooth Talker, the software-only speech synthesizer for one first byte, the leader in speech technology. I know you will find Smooth Talker both easy to learn and fun to use. As you can see and hear, plain English text is converted to speech through Macintosh's built-in speaker. Over 1,200 rules are applied to the English text. These rules automatically encode variables like stress, pitch, and inflections caused by punctuation. See what I mean? As more knowledge of Smooth Talker grows, you will also...
I'm gonna stop it there. And what was great was you were able to actually have it say something. So in many of the welcome Macintosh speech that Steve Jobs gave, this was used to say the hello, I'm Macintosh text to speech. This program was used. So I'm going to quit this real quick, and I'm going to quit it. And I'm just curious to what this Finder version is, because I believe it's really old. Nope, it's the same, it's 5.3. It's actually newer. So then let me do another shutdown real quick. And I'm going to show you another example real quick. And then we will be done. So here's, let me go up. I'm sorry, it takes a second here. I'm going to be going to my disks and my games. one of the greatest games ever written for the Mac. It's called Airborne. How this game works, and I'll let it just do its own little demo. And it's fairly primitive to games of today, but at the time, using the graphics and the other things that were available and the sounds, it was pretty crazy. And considering that you use the mouse to steer your weapons, and the goal is to prevent the guys from landing, because the more guys that land, they will start going to your location over here and throw a grenade at you. But you can see, look how far systems have come by the introduction of the Macintosh with a GUI interface. Oh, I'm done. Jet just got me. With a GUI interface, with a mouse, a keyboard, the screen that's showing you the text of what you see is what you get. Truly have come a long way in computing. And this machine had 512K of memory. So the other part that you can think about, which is really crazy, is how much memory this machine had. I'm going to show you one more example. I'm going to quit this. And I'm going to show you a programming language for this. I'm going to go up. And I'm going to go here. And I should be able to find it very quickly. And this has a little display on it. And with this, we can load different types of images or different types of tools onto it. And what I'm going to show you next is BASIC. And here is BASIC. So now this is loading Microsoft BASIC for the Mac. And it's a little bit more advanced than regular BASIC because it was able to take advantage of some of the features of the Mac. So here's an example. And they have some examples, advanced notes and other things, but let me just run it. And here's MS BASIC. Now it's loading. So you notice one of the common themes of writing programs or writing things has been that people have written things in BASIC. And we can do new. And this BASIC allows us to, so there's list, run, trace, you name it. So let's put in 10, print, and let's do our quotes, hello. And we have 10 print hello there. And we have a bunch of different commands. List, which obviously is going to print 10 print hello. We can use run. And there we go, it printed hello. So you could port BASIC code from other machines or programs, and then you can get it to here. And once again, here's BASIC running, but now we have a GUI interface as well for this, which is really pretty cool. And this is running Microsoft BASIC version 1.0, 1983, by Microsoft on the Mac. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the Fat Mac, the 512K Mac, and we have some additional demos coming up soon that I'll be showing you. Thank you.